Peace, 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 fam. How y'all doing? Happy Moon Day. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube. Today, I want to do something a little different. I may pull a card for you. I may not, depends. I want to go with the where the energy takes me today. But I wanted to read um, a section of a book to you today. I want to do something inspirational today. And I have a ton of books in my house, and I haven't I haven't read this book in years. The Chicken Soup for the African American Woman's Soul. And if any of you remember, the original book came out with Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, which was absolutely hilarious. But in this one, Lisa Nichols, who is a renowned motivational speaker, co-wrote this one, and there were a lot of credits to this book to go into doing this book, which I love. Um, and the African American woman, is the foundational Black American woman. This was before all of the titles started shifting around. But I want to read this part because it speaks to where I am now. And I feel like this is a key energy that's taking place right now because people are waking up, people are expanding, they're growing, um, and they're opening their minds and their mindsets are shifting because of the energy that we are in right now. Very Uranian. I told you the unexpected energy. Things are coming out, knowledge is coming out, information is coming out. They just released the files for JFK recently. Um, they'll be releasing other files on like MLK. So, and I think it's, as Kat said, which I said, Kat is into some astrology. This is the era of truth, basically, where truth is coming out. So again, you see everything that's happening in the music industry and really everywhere. Everywhere we go now, information is just pouring out. The truth is just coming out, and we are coping. We're more than coping. I think a lot of us are happy. A lot of us are, being, validated because it's something we inherently knew all along, or we had information, but we know we weren't being heard, whatever the case may be, and not just women, men as well. Okay. But I want to read this portion of the book, and actually um, it's pretty short. This was pretty short. So this section of the book is called Reclaiming My Soul. It is written by Lisa J. Whaley, and she gives a quote by Tina Turner. It says, "You must love and care for yourself because that's when the best comes out." The weather was reflective of my mood on this particular autumn day. The sky was gray and full of clouds, with no chance of sunshine in the forecast. For 5 months, I had been battling a serious blood disorder, but I realized that my physical illness was the least of my problems. It was my emotional state that was killing me. For the preceding 12 months, it was as if my life had been nothing but a showering downpour of rain. I was caught in, quote, the perfect storm, end quote, and felt as if I had nowhere to run for shelter. I had never felt so alone in my entire life. My older daughter was in Utah attending the Red Cliff Ascent Wilderness Therapy Program for struggling teens. My younger daughter was at school. I was supposed to be at work, but I had called my assistant that morning and informed her that I was extremely ill. I told her to cancel all of my meetings and appointments for that day and inform my manager of my absence. My then husband was in Atlanta, We had separated. He had left 2 weeks earlier. In the morning, our septic tank backed up, and we had raw sewage backing up in the toilets, the bathtubs, and even the washing machine. He simply called a plumber and a septic tank company and left before they arrived. Now, still clad in my pajamas, I simply picked up my car keys, walked into my closed garage, sat in my car, and cranked it on. I had decided to choose death over life. I wanted to close my eyes, peacefully fall asleep, and never wake up again. As I sat in my car with the engine running, two prevailing thoughts entered my mind. I thought of my younger daughter and the fact that she would be the one to come home from school to find me slumped over the steering wheel in the front seat of my car. I couldn't imagine the traumatic effect it would have on her for the rest of her life. My second thought, as stupid as it may be, was about IBM, the company where I was a vice president at the time. I couldn't help but think what all of my colleagues would say about me. My legacy would be the brightest shining star who self-destructed. Maybe she didn't have what it takes after all, quote unquote. I turned the engine off and sat there for about 30 minutes. I couldn't even cry. I was so totally numb. I knew that I was seriously ill, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I felt as if I were just some insignificant item that has been tossed into the lost and found, waiting for its owner to come back and reclaim it. This was the defining moment for me as I realized that my soul was in the lost and found. And I decided I was going back to reclaim it. I got out of my car, went into the house, and picked up the phone. I made a call that saved my life. I called an employee assistance program, EAP hotline. I had the number memorized because I had used it often in the preceding months when I was trying to find help for my daughter. That day, I spoke for an hour with a clinician. I told her I had just tried to commit suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning, but couldn't go through with it. I was almost incoherent, rambling in my thoughts and words. I recall telling her, quote, I need help. I've been trying to get an appointment with a psychiatrist for over a week, but no one can see me for at least 3 weeks. I can't wait that long. I may be dead by then, end quote. During my conversation with the clinician, I started to have feelings of hope. She stayed on the phone with me and used her other line to try to set up an appointment with a psychiatrist for me right away. She was able to get an appointment for me 4 o'clock that afternoon. It was about 11 a.m. when we finished our call, and she called me back every 30 minutes to check on me and see how I was doing. I was so weak physically and emotionally that I could barely manage to take a shower and get dressed. The most mundane and ordinary tasks felt monumental to me, but I was driven by the thought that all of my life I had been perceived as this, quote, strong and determined Black woman, end quote, who would let nothing bring her down. I watched the clock tick minute by minute for 4.5 hours. As I waited for the time to come for me to leave my appointment, I began thinking about my life. I reached deep into the memory bank of my childhood. I remembered that I had been raised with a very solid foundation of love, understanding, great values and principles, and a strong sense of spirituality and faith. I was not raised to be a coward or give up. I was raised believing that I could do anything I put my mind to and that no obstacles were insurmountable. I finally left for my appointment. During the 20-minute drive, I almost fixated on the beauty of the fall leaves changing colors and floating to the ground. My visit to the psychiatrist, filled with hope, increased my desire to live. And that desire was validated by the second stranger of the day who would help save my life. It was the beginning of the healing process for me. I was finally reaching out for help. My mind, body, and soul had completely shut down, but I knew with time they would be back in sync. I was determined to do whatever work was necessary to ensure that happened. I started out that gloomy autumn day making a choice of death. But by the end of the day, I had decided to choose life. If I had followed through on the first choice, I would have never seen all the bright days that I have since lived to see. I couldn't fathom then that there would be sunshine once again in my life. Even though it still pours rain some days, I just imagine that I'm Annie in the Broadway musical singing, "The sun will come out tomorrow," and it always does. Today, I feel a glow around me every time I hear my daughter's voice, see their faces, or my daughter's voices, see their faces, or get hugs from them that fill my soul with a warmth that not even a blazing fire could replace. My older daughter survived her troubled youth and is blossoming like a beautiful flower. When I look into her eyes, I see my own reflection and am reminded that we indeed are both strong women who will let no obstacles keep us down. We've both learned to get back up, brush ourselves off, and keep moving forward. My younger daughter fundamentally saved my life. The thought of her was my motivation to live, as if she breathed air into my lungs, keeping me alive on that dreary day. And I now savor each and every moment of it. I have my soul back, reclaimed with a new sense of meaning and purpose. I now understand just how blessed I was, am, and will always be. Lisa J. Whaley. So when I read her story, I just picked one. I just picked a story based on the title. I had no idea it was going to be about someone who was essentially on the verge of taking her own life. But I understand what she meant when she said she was reclaiming her soul again. And even the quote from Tina Turner that says, "You must love and care for yourself because that's when the best comes out." And that is absolutely true. I have found that to be the case in my life. I have not attempted to take my life. I have not. But I have been so stretched in so many directions for so long that I just simply didn't have enough energy to do all the things that I would normally do to take care of myself, to take care of the small nooks and crannies of what it takes for a woman to get dressed and walk out the door. I simply was in a rush all the time for many years. Let me just get out. Let me just get to work. I'll deal with this when I do this. I'll put some makeup on in the car. I was rushing all the time. And the thing about our intricate brains, our minds, is that our minds are, it runs very efficiently. So when we give it a task and we continue that task over and over again, it records that task. It records that mindset. It records that habit so that you don't have to do the work. As much work is doing the work for you. It is pre-programmed. And we all pre-program our minds to live the life that we are living now. And so when you get to a place where, you feel like you're always stretched or you're overwhelmed. I think I felt just overwhelmed. I had taken on more than I could handle, and willingly so. I wanted to raise a family that was healthy and happy and content. But it took work. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of courage. Um, and it was bravery. It was a lot of bravery to do that, knowing that I would not have the support that I needed to do it. I did not have the support of my family from the outset. So to meet a man, to marry, to have a child with this man, only to learn down the road that I had repeated the same pattern subconsciously. I didn't willingly do it. This is one of the things men don't understand. Women are subconsciously making choices. Men subconsciously make choices. Why? Because our brains, our minds, our subconscious have been programmed. Now, am I saying that we are not accountable for our choices and decisions? No. Because at the end of the day, we are fully accountable for it. We have to take ownership, extreme ownership over everything that is happening in our lives that we are not content with. What I am bringing out is that men are no different than women in that our minds are crafted the same way. It programs what it is we put in there or what's been placed in there as children. So we're operating out of our subconscious. When we sabotage ourselves, it is coming out of our subconscious. When we continue to perpetuate violence, we are operating out of our subconscious. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, some of us are not so programmed where we can stop and think, it's like, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to make this choice? Do I really want to move forward in this? And halt. We can halt that habit, that pattern, so that it does not become a program or a conditioning. But certainly our childhood as we grew up, like, how scary it is in my circumstance to know literally at such a young age that your family is not supportive of you, that if you were ever to grow up and become vulnerable in any way, that and to have to rely on them, you will be abused again. You know how scary that is for a little girl? And at the same time, being taught to have to take care of myself. This is not the story of all Gen Xers, but all Gen Xers know that we had to take care of ourselves. Like that care was not transitioned down from the boomers to the next generation, which was on the heels of the boomers, which is Gen X. That's why they call us the latchkey kids. Okay. So on top of being the latchkey kids, I also did not have the support of my siblings. And my parents had no power to stop it, though my mother tried. My father, his solution was he told one of the brothers, you better look out for her. She's going to need some help. Why would my father do that? Why would he put the onus on his son to look out for me when he could have stepped in then? He didn't. He would not. He chose not. And my mother was just overwhelmed with the constant negative chatter about me. Constant, to the point they programmed her. See, look at all these negative things about her. Look at how she walks. Look at how she talks. She doesn't have legs like us. She doesn't have this like us. She doesn't have that like us. Like literally almost trying to program my mother to say, that's not my child. Thank God my mother understood, like, that's my child. But as long as I had to remain in the picture in order to kind of plead my case and fight my case all the time, all the negative chatter, that when I left, it was easy for them to swoop in like vultures and go in full time, day after day, day after day, day after day, about how much of a terrible person I was. And of course, I wasn't a terrible person. I just took the spot of being the youngest and usurped the baby girl of the family who was not having it. And that programming remains till today, in this moment. So, was I at this place where this woman was, where she was ready to take her life and she had to remember? No. But the extreme overwhelm of what I had to, the responsibilities of what I took on, so that I could give my son an opportunity to experience a happy life, a loving family, what it's like to be supported. What does that look like? I'm not crying, folks. I promise you, my eyes have been watering from my eyes have been watering from from allergies. So I promise you. But if you want to take it as a tear, that's okay too, because the topic is kind of heavy. My point is this: at the end of the day, I had to do shadow work. I had to take ownership of things that I absolutely refused to do because I felt it wasn't my fault. It didn't matter. The universe does not care. Programming set in, conditioning set in, and that was leading to a very unhappy life for me. And I had to take ownership over my own happiness, my own contentment. And I did. And I worked at it and worked at it, and I continue to work at it. It just brought me to where I am today. And I am very content where I am today. Am I working on other things to make up, not necessarily make up for lost time, but a little bit of that, but to also move forward? I don't know how much time I have in this life. I don't know if the next second, the next minute, the next year, the next 5 years, I have no idea. I would love to be retired, but so much time was spent in drama based on programming that was set in and me trying to escape it. I was trying to run as far away from that drama as much as possible. But all I had to do was put my foot down and set a boundary and say, no more. No more. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be the victim anymore. I'm not going to tolerate abuse, any kind, not physical, not emotional, not mental, the puppeteering. I wasn't doing that. It's one thing to love your family, but it's really important that you know that your family loves you back. And when it is made clear that is not the case. And I exclude my mother from this. But when it's made clear, again, my eyes watering, so bear with me. When that was made clear to me, and no matter how much I try over and over and over again, it became insanity because it was a joke. So I wasn't going to be the butt of the joke anymore. I took a stance. And they felt they won too. When I moved away, they felt they won. When I just stopped communicating with them, that's a win for them too. This is what happens when you deal with narcissism and sociopathic behavior. It's for them, it's like I could take a win no matter what you do. It's a win for me. But what makes my journey and many of your journeys so beautiful is that we've learned to reclaim our soul. We've learned to reclaim who we are, take back our love, our heart. I did a video about this the other day or a couple of weeks ago. Take back your heart, take back your voice, take back your mind, take back your soul, take back your spirit. This is reclaiming. This is what reclaiming looks like. And I'm not concerned with the chatter about Black women, the state of Black women. This is why y'all this way, and this is why y'all that way. That's not my business. My business is my soul's business. And that's what I am focusing on. And I love the fact that this woman was able to think of her daughter at a very critical moment in her life. To say, oh, this would not look good. There was a little ego in there too. She was like, she thought about her job. That's okay. If that's what it took for her to turn that car off and walk in that house and make that phone call and say the words, I need help, then so be it. That's what she had to do. So we have to determine where it is we have given away so much of our soul to the point we don't see the value in our living anymore. We don't see the value in the purpose of paying attention to the details of our existence and of our presence and the nuances of our hair or makeup or clothing or our just how we present ourselves out in society. We have to not lose that, get back to that. And of course, there's some women who this is a part of like their makeup. This is who they are. But inside, they're still hurting, or inside, they're still struggling. People who are famous struggle with these thoughts as well. This is why it goes back to, what is the programming going on in the mind? How have we given away, that key part of our soul to the point, we just lose sight of our beauty. And we are beautiful. So, yeah. So that's my message for us today. I'm not going to pull a card, but I'll just remind us that when I last pulled for us, this card came out, the Four of Swords, the healing. Heal. And you can't stay there, but when you do the healing, eventually we get the stability. We get the family, we get the coin, we get the mate. Now, some of us know we may not, some of us are not all fated to be in a committed relationship with another person. I absolutely believe that. But you do get the commitment. And this card can also be interpreted to some degree, not mostly, but to some degree, as I see things now, is, especially the Lover's card, is how are you loving yourself? How are you tapping into your inner self and being in sync with your outer self, the subconscious with the conscious? We have to look at that first. We keep looking outside of ourselves for actual physical mate. First, we must become committed to our own soul in its completion and its wholeness in a feminine and a divine feminine and a divine masculine way. Because we all have both. How are we nurturing ourselves as if we were nurture a pet or take care of our inner child here? Everybody feels rich, is committed in this card. But this could be you and all of your soul being, in your full soul being. There is nothing missing. You feel me? There's nothing missing. You're content in every way. And I love the fact that her hand is open. Like it's not pushed to the side, but it's open and receiving the energy. And this is who we have to be first within. You feel me? If we focus on that, everything else comes into play. And don't let anyone cross your boundaries. Don't betray your own boundaries. Respect your own boundaries. Maintain your boundaries. You know, protect yourself in that way. Not in a defensive way, but just in a respectful way. Have conversations with people. Walk away from conflict. You're like, I don't need that anymore. I don't need those things that brought me to a state where it brought this woman, Jill Whaley, I think her name is. She walked away from those things that brought her to a place to the brink of almost destruction, self-destruction, you know? And if you have to get into conflict with people to let them know, hey, you've crossed the boundary, then do that. I don't have to pull other cards. These cards are sufficient enough. Sometimes you will be disappointed with the outcome, but know in the end, you're still the queen. You still have your throne. You still have some stability. And I see this rabbit here. You know, rabbits are a symbol of good luck. So with the rabbit there, she's got good fortune on her side. She's got lusciousness behind her. She's content. She's at peace. So be at peace. Be at peace. Reclaim your soul and be at peace. Okay. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you soon. Peace, peace.